There's actually not much evidence that exercise meaningfully increases your testosterone production, which I know sounds crazy because everyone thinks otherwise, but we've looked at a ton of studies and spoken to Dr. Mike Israetel from Renaissance Periodization. He's got a PhD in sports physiology, he used to teach a ton of nutrition courses at Temple University. He's going to help us bust some big myths about testosterone. So we're going to talk about what might work for increasing your testosterone, what definitely doesn't work, and I'm going to talk about what everyone gets wrong about it. And people get a lot wrong with testosterone. Before I go ahead, I do want to make it really clear, I'm not a physician, I'm not an endocrinologist. You really should speak with a qualified medical professional if you have any concerns about your own testosterone levels. For now though, let's take a close look at this whole exercise boosts your T idea. Now, testosterone has a ton of links with better mood, better bone strength, better cognition, better libido, all these other things. But that link with muscle gain, well, it's a little bit contested. Actually, it's very contested. Now, if you are injecting anabolic steroids, which we strongly advise against, then you're gonna have many times the amount of testosterone you naturally produce, and that has been linked with increases in muscle size. But if you're just doing everything you can to naturally increase testosterone, you think exercise is going to help that, well, within that healthy range that a normal person is in, that range is pretty wide, and increasing your testosterone within it probably won't affect your muscle size that much.
Probably the most convincing reason is that they've done a considerable amount of research on the degree to which normal ranges of testosterone production in humans, like the 300 to 900 range, depending on what country you're from and what units you use. They have a very hard time demonstrating that being at the top or bottom end of that range is actually reliably going to produce any amount of muscle, and certainly any amount of muscle that you can measure in months.
Now, you might be asking, but lifting weights makes your muscles bigger because it increases your testosterone, right? Well, lifting weights does a lot of stuff to help make your muscles bigger, but the increase in testosterone, it's not crazy significant. Most of the studies that have seen an increase put it in the area of 10% or less, and it's very temporary. And a lot of studies are questioning whether or not there is an increase in testosterone connected to the exercise itself anyway. There was one 12-month randomized clinical trial, for instance, among people doing aerobic exercise that found at the end of the trial there were no increases in testosterone. And there was another one, a 12-week strength and hypertrophy training program, really dedicated the kind of workouts that are supposed to increase testosterone, and it found no correlation. And again, the studies that have found a correlation, very small and very temporary. And there's not even that much evidence that someone with big muscles, like irrespective of everything else, independent of any other factors, they haven't really found that just having bigger muscles means you have more testosterone than somebody else.
Within double the amount of test that you normally have, like if you doubled your testosterone, you're in the normal range, over your lifetime, it'd probably increase muscularity, all things being equal, but it'd just be a real small amount. We're comparing those studies in which people have 2 or 3 times as much testosterone and don't reliably grow muscle. We go back to looking at studies in which over the course of the week of having 4 or 5 hard workouts, you might be able to increase your testosterone by 5 to 10% total. I mean, good God, good luck with, there's no machine that can detect that little amount of muscle growth that even theoretically that would cause.
Now, lifting weights does produce a much more dramatic increase in your growth hormone, plus it's great for a ton of other hormones and reactions that are conducive to building muscle. But that link between testosterone and bigger muscles really isn't as strong as many people have thought. But still, having low testosterone has been linked to a bunch of health problems like depression, decreased bone mass, decreased cognition, impaired libido, a bunch of other stuff. So if you are low in testosterone, what are some lifestyle changes you can make that might potentially help to bring you within normal ranges? Now, I need to make it clear, that's different to saying what can we do to get super physiological levels of testosterone, like really high levels. But if you're low, there are some potential lifestyle changes that can help to bring you within healthy ranges. Vitamin D is one that gets a lot of support from a lot of people in the medical community. It's not unanimous, I should make that clear. There are some studies conflicting with this, but there is decent evidence to support the idea that if you supplement or get more time in the sun, that might help you to bring testosterone within healthy ranges. But there's more to it than that.
I think that can be said for a variety of nutrients, including cholesterol and dietary fat, saturated fat, definitely essential fats, and probably to a large extent carbohydrate as well, and possibly protein. So, and lastly, calories, actually probably the most important. Is if you are hypocaloric, it really doesn't so much matter where your nutrients come from. The optimization of getting enough vitamin D and enough fat and enough carbs and so on and so forth is, it has an effect, but it's a smaller effect than just eating more food.
Of course, that doesn't mean you should just eat as much as you can every day. There's plenty of evidence to show that obesity decreases testosterone. But there's also evidence to show that having really low body fat decreases testosterone. The solution, of course, is to keep your body fat within healthy, moderate ranges. And this is actually very, very important to point out because a lot of the people who worry about this kind of stuff and a lot of the people who are going to be watching this video, they're bodybuilders or physique competitors or aspiring bodybuilders. And a lot of them get into their head that having as much muscle as possible and slashing body fat as low as possible is going to keep your testosterone sky high. But actually, it appears that more time you spend under like 10% body fat may be working against you.
So a lot of individuals, sort of diet for their first time, really, really strict and get really great results or do their first show. They get down to, let's say, 5% body fat and they sort of have it in their minds like, okay, I'm going to do an off season, but I'm going to stay super lean because, I like how I look and I don't want to diet super hard for my next show. So I can just stay lean. And if they stay, let's say they only ever come up to 8% fat and they happen to be the average individual, they're almost guaranteeing themselves suboptimal testosterone concentrations and thus suboptimal results, among many other things.
So to summarize thus far, what are the best natural strategies to keep your testosterone levels within healthy ranges? A lot of this stuff is contested, yes, but still definitely evidence is leaning towards saying getting enough calories and protein and carbohydrates, keeping your body fat levels within moderate ranges, and also make sure you don't go too low on vitamin D or magnesium or zinc. You really want to get a broad spectrum of nutrients and just be as healthy as possible. It's also super important to emphasize that managing your stress and getting enough sleep is really important here. There's just a lot of evidence linking like sleep disorders and a lot of stress to low testosterone. And it's also probably one of the reasons why sometimes exercise has been linked to better levels of testosterone, because exercise and like magnesium, these help you to sleep better and in turn might help with testosterone levels. Now let's talk about a couple of the most popular testosterone boosting supplements. So let's say you're healthy, you already get plenty of sleep, you already do manage your body fat levels, you have a really good diet, and you're positive this testosterone boosting supplement you found at your supplement store is going to skyrocket your levels of T. Like it says so right there in the bottle, right? Well, let's start with D-aspartic acid. That's an amino acid that quite a few studies link to higher levels of testosterone, or at least they used to, and then more and more studies came out that started to question that conclusion. Plenty found that there was no link. A lot of the ones that found there was a link found that testosterone returned to baseline after a few weeks. And when they did find a link, it's in the area of like a 30 to 60% increase in T, which I know sounds like a lot, but if it's moving you around that healthy range, it's really very unlikely to actually meaningfully affect your levels of testosterone and your levels of muscle.
I'm really against overvaluing a few new studies done in like the last year, because you're almost certainly going to get some publication bias in that case. And even if you're not, I just wouldn't bet that you're not. So people say, well, D-aspartic acid was big, I think a couple of years ago, probably like 5 years ago. What they found was, the first couple of studies really did seem like in untrained populations, testosterone was boosted. And then they tested a couple of studies occurred in trained populations. People actually lifted weights. And not only could they not demonstrate an increase in serum testosterone from D-aspartic acid, they actually couldn't demonstrate a statistically significant amount or even practically significant or even effect size different of muscle gained for those people who took D-aspartic acid or not. So boy, oh boy, does that look bad.
So at worst, it does nothing. At best, it remains to be seen. The other one I want to talk about is DHEA. That is a naturally occurring hormone in the body, very easy to find at your local supplement store. And yeah, there were quite a few studies that found it could increase your testosterone. But again, then a bunch of other studies came out saying it didn't really have any effect. And actually, the vast majority of studies that have shown a positive effect were performed on postmenopausal women.
Almost the identical story as D-aspartic acid as far as kind of like a research narrative. First couple studies came out on DHEA, people got really excited, people started buying it, supplement companies started selling it, and then the not so exciting studies come thereafter, and it was like, man, I just don't think this does stuff.
Now, is it possible these supplements help with testosterone? Yeah, it's possible. Is the evidence unanimous? Nope, it's very, very far from unanimous. If you're thinking, should I just focus on positive studies? Should I just buy it anyway? Should I try it out because it's a chance it might work? Look, I mean, it's your money, but even if it does work according to the studies, the difference probably still isn't going to be enough to make a meaningful difference to your physique anyway. Now, just like with most, if not all of your hormones, you do want your testosterone to be within a healthy range. If it is within a healthy range, then you're good. If not, some lifestyle strategies like managing your sleep, managing your stress, managing your weight, getting a broad spectrum of vitamins and minerals, that has been seen to potentially help in some cases. But look, if you're concerned, if they're still low, talk with a doctor. There are plenty of effective and legal strategies like testosterone replacement therapy that have been really helpful to a lot of people to help them artificially raise the levels of testosterone. It's not natural, but it can be really helpful in a lot of cases. But look, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not an endocrinologist, so if you have concerns in this area, you really should speak with your own physician. So that's everything from me on this topic. If you want to see some more on this topic and see some of the other research I've done, especially on stuff like androgen sensitivity, which is a really important component of this whole puzzle, check out the full article I wrote on natural ways to increase testosterone in the description below.